Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crunkest Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. Say every night on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Y'all know who it is. I am the 5-star general. 1 minute, they gonna balance the budget. The second minute, we in a deficit. And then thirdly, we end up with a surplus. HISD, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. You playing with our money, man. Say, man, I want to take the time out and say, welcome to the War Zone, and thank you for taking the time out to tune in to the OG. And, without a doubt, I appreciate you guys taking the time out to come and hang out with me. Because, without you, I would not have an audience at all to be able to sit here and talk to you every single day. There are a lot of things going on in the world today. I do not want to talk about what went on in New York City. I could care less. I live in the state of Texas. God bless all those people that survived that tragedy. And God be with the ones, their families who did not. Let the law handle the situation the way it needs to be handled, because nobody deserves to go through what they went through in that subway in New York City. Now I know everybody, I unleashed a new song last night, and it got good traction. And it's called Mr. Superintendent. It is no secret that I am not a fan of the current superintendent, Millard House, of the Houston Independent School District. I feel like House does not know what he's doing. It's obvious he doesn't. But there are a lot of reasons why he doesn't know what he's doing, and some of them are not his fault. But I will tell you this, that I wrote the song, Mr. Superintendent. I did the song, and it created a firestorm. I got a couple of calls. Man, you went too hard on him. No, I ain't went too hard on him. I went right where I was supposed to go. And see, there's a method to my madness. There is a method to my madness. And I want to show you why I wrote the song, and then I'll play the song for you. So let's go here. This is at the last budget workshop. And then I ask a question and it goes haywire. Let's watch.
You said a mouthful. We need to make sure that we ain't doing the same things, or we get the same results. That means you need to start reading your material. You need to do everything that a trustee does. We also need to understand, Mr. Superintendent, that I know that you want these schools fixed. Because maybe a month and a half ago, you were running around trying to find your kid a new school. You brought him to my old high school. So I would ask, why your kid don't go to my school right now? You know why? Because you ain't gonna put her in a school that don't have nothing to offer her. Ma'am, I don't know if we get this, but you can't do that while I'm up here.
You need to.
First of all, I ain't called nobody.
If you want to have a conversation, outside and talk to my child,
stop my
be glad to do
time,
so.
ma'am. He's interrupting my time.
Yeah.
I went strictly by board policy. You said don't name nobody, and I didn't name anybody. No, I didn't. I did not name anybody.
Let's get back to the topic.
My topic was 106. You stopped me.
I didn't stop you. Go
Ma'am,
ahead.
Take me back to 106. And as I said, if it ain't good enough for yours, it's got to be good enough for ours. I tell you what, since you will not restore my time, and you messed with my constitutional right, now you got a problem. And if you want to have a discussion, let's have one.
Seems
This concludes our
it
hearing of
seems
registered
that
speakers for
it
agenda
seems
items.
that hold on.
We are now ready
let's
to
stop
consider
this. It seems that he got upset because I said what I said. So let me break that down to you so that you can clearly understand what I was saying. What I was saying was about a month and a half ago, the superintendent himself went around trying to find his kid a new school. For whatever the reason, I really don't care. But the problem is the kid don't go to our schools. You brought her to our low performing black schools, which in all actuality, you know better than the rest of the parents who don't want their kids to go there. So if it's not good enough for your child and you're the head man in charge, then why should it be good enough for our children? You feel what I'm saying? So with that being said, and the board president deciding to once again interrupt me from speaking, I called my attorney. See, because right now they're in the middle of an illegal appeal, which they're gonna lose. Where they appeal at $300,000, that's just gonna make it go up more. My lawyer got to spend more time on it. And the thing is they wanted to interrupt me, and this is how we gonna play this game, right? Okay, well, I tell you what, I'm gonna speak again Thursday. And if you interrupt me this time, Friday morning, that paperwork gonna be filed in federal court. So rather than argue with him, I decided to go to the lab. And for those that don't know what the lab is, I'm an accomplished recording artist. And let's see. Let's share this. I decided to go to the lab. And I wrote a song. And I want to dedicate it to Mr. Superintendent. Y'all tell me what you think. Say this goes out to that fraud ass superintendent, Miller House III, HISD. Let's go.
Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Mr. Superintendent, I got a bone to pick. My mind started clicking, you just straight up fit. I sat back for a second and peeped your game. Oh, smell my cologne, bitch, remember my name. It's the fire in front of the Star Monroe. I smell pussy the first day you came through the door. And now you wanna fuck our kids, fuck yours and your motherfucking wife and your side piece hoe. You still wanna fight, nigga, bring it. Cause I'm gonna hum with the Glock and had them hollow points singing. You wanna play tough, nigga, keep on flexing. See, I'll slap your ass, bitch, straight out of Texas. Take your schemes, your team, and get the fuck on now. If you stay your little bitch, you better watch your mouth. You think I'm all talk, but you ain't getting no pass. Let's have a conversation, ho, with my foot in your ass. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Let's slide to the trustees. For a second, every board meeting, you suckers, you stay living up with nothing but some yes girls and one yes boy. You're tougher than a bitch, surrounded by laws. Next board president, I'll get you at the polls, and you ain't getting no votes from none of my Negroes. Take your side piece, she going with you. I wipe out the whole cabinet when I get through. I still can't believe that you hide this bum. Let's send this bitch back where the fuck it come from. You can't do a budget, you can't educate, and your words ain't lining up because they carry no weight. Matter of fact, you want a guinea pig mission, and I'm gonna line it up just because this nigga tripping. You came to get the bag, then you raising them up. You didn't know that you the pussy that we plotting to fuck, nigga. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Build house. Fair warning, bitch. Better sit your fuck ass down somewhere. So, I just had to dress your game up. Like the pimp would say. I bet your bitch ass smell my cologne now. Oh. Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. 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 So basically, the dude invited me outside to fight. If I had done it, they'd have said I threatened him, but you threatened me. So I had to bless your game. Yeah, I know your soft spot now. So let's talk about what we came to talk about tonight. All right. So I'm going to give you the game on how this works. All right. You know, every year we start off the year, they say we're in a deficit. And according to the Houston Chronicle, HISD overestimated its spending by nearly $300 million over the last 5 years to only end the same period with more than $300 million in additional surplus funds, even as the district moved to eliminate teaching positions. Teacher compensation ranked below other districts in the region, and administrators urged tighter spending according to an outside audit of the district's finances. Each year, HISD publishes a budget book full of data. You can find the actuals from the prior year on page number 10. Those surpluses would have paid for raises. And, you know, you go there and you figure it out. So all these years, and even this year included, going into next year, you say you have no money to give raises. I don't care if the rap song don't go over well, Al. It don't take away from my message. You know why? Because it's up to y'all to decide if I'm telling the truth. So watch what I'm going to show you tonight. The thing is, you have no money to give raises at all. So you got to cut back the staff, and you always start at the school level. So you got to get rid of the teachers because you don't have enough money. So you say you got a $300 million deficit over 5 years. But come to find out, you didn't have a $300 million deficit. You actually ended the 5-year period with a surplus of $300 million. So that means that the raises that you lied and said you couldn't give the teachers, you actually could. You had the money to give it to them. So how are they able to do this? Well, when the CFOs, chief financial officers, they start working on budgets, they have a way of hiding the money.
to make it look like we are in a deficit. So what they do is they hide it under different administrative codes in the budget. They hide it under different administrative codes in the budget. And the crazy part is nobody knows what the codes are. So the only person that knows is them. So when the year is over, say they hid $100 million. When the year is over, that $100 million is sitting there. So now you say, well, we ended the year with a surplus of $100 million. Well, how could you end the year with a surplus of $100 million when you said based on your allocations, we would have been in a deficit for $100 million. So you pushed all this money over here and said, okay, if it's all there, we're $100 million short. Now, at the end of the year, you bring that money from over there back over here and say, no, we got $100 million. Hold on a second. So how does that happen? How does that happen? What happens to the $100 million that's in a surplus? Well, all of a sudden you need to do some extra work. So you're going to use that surplus of $100 million and say, we need to fix a roof over here. So you go to fix the roof and you inflate the cost of the roof, inflate the cost of the materials through a vendor that clearly knows the game. They charge the district the money. He gets the check, cash the check, cut out what he need to give to whoever he need to kick it back to, and that's how the game is played. So the money is hid under certain administrative codes, and they do this in all the school districts. They do this in all the school districts. So while teachers are struggling to make ends meet, have to work 2 and 3 jobs because you're lying saying that you don't have the money. The money's always been there. You just hid it. Now, I know you hide money under administrative codes because the very first assignment that I ever had was in reference to a fine arts issue with some band uniforms. And my old principal, who was no longer the principal at Yates, told me to tell them to look under Administrative Code 103. And when we looked under Administrative Code 103 for the school that said they had no additional money, that was $69 million. It automatically just dropped into the budget. It wasn't requested. And it would drop into the budget every 2 to 3 years. So that's just $69,000 that could be misappropriated. And they do this in every single school district. So if you got people here that are from Fort Bend, Klein, HISD, Humble, they do it everywhere. They hide the money under certain administrative codes. And even if you go into the budget, unless you know the code to look for, you will never find the money. So what is HISD doing right now with our teachers? They're doing hiring fast where they want to give a new teacher a $10 million bonus to make a 3 to HISD. $10,000 to commit to HISD. They even going as far as giving up to $2,500 just to get janitors. Let me tell y'all what should not happen. If you need a job at this moment, do not come to the Houston Independent School District. You will not be valued. You will be treated like garbage. You will be overworked. You will be lied to. You will have a union that will not represent you to their fullest capability because they're in bed with the school district. You're going to be underpaid compared to other school districts. Now, if you just want some extra money, then come on, they'll work you 16, 17 hours a day for you to get that little change that they're going to give you. But now that you have a surplus of 300 million, why would you need to fire teachers? So let me tell you how you get to stay at the school if you're there. Now, say you're at a low performing school. They're giving this 10,000 for people to come in and take these low performing school jobs. One, if you're at a low performing school, you're going to have to reapply. Well, we've been through that before. That's Apollo all over again. You're going to have to reapply at a low performing school. Do you really think you're going to get your job back? No. Now, here's the problem that I have with the whole thing. Most of the low performing schools are in the black and brown communities. So who's going to lose all their teachers? Where are you going to get all these teachers from? You did a hiring fair last weekend and hardly anybody showed up because nobody wants to work for the Houston Independent School District. So what's going to happen to our classrooms? Do we clearly understand that you have a narcissist running the Houston Independent School District? You have an administrative team that has no experience or expertise in running a school district. You have a deputy superintendent who has never been an administrator in a school. They're trying to pattern themselves after the ideal charter schools, or they're trying to pattern themselves after Dallas ISD or Chicago ISD. None of these places or none of these schools are comparable to the Houston Independent School District. HISD is too big for the person that's now in charge. He comes from a smaller school district where he only had affluent kids, not a high population of poor kids, African American, Latino kids, immigrant kids. He never dealt with that. Special ed, not a high population at all. This was an affluent community. So you come from a district 3 times smaller, trying to run the same strategies in this monster that's called HISD. That doesn't work. And it will never work. And I'm just telling you that when it's all said and done, we're going to go somewhere with this where we'll lose everything. This man will pack up his stuff, move his family to another city, and get another job. And we'll be sitting here again trying to sort this out. So why are you guys hiding all this money? You see what I'm saying? Why would you hide all of this money? Why would you take this money from these children? You know why? Because you don't give a damn about children. You don't care if they're educated. And us in America, and this applies to everybody that's listening from whatever city, state you're from, you can't see what's going on. Thunder says sound like it's ripe for corruption. What's going on with HISD right now with the Brian Busby case, and that's the tip of the iceberg. That is the tip of the iceberg. Is there still corruption going on in the Houston Independent School District? It's not a doubt that there is. Are people still stealing money? Yes, they are. Are board members still getting paid? Yes, they are. Because they want you to believe that there is nothing going on and this man has his thumb all over everything. I want to tell Millard that you in the real intellectual African American circle, you're a running joke right now. People know you don't run the day-to-day of HISD that Rick Cruz does. People know that you're not knowledgeable of what's going on in this school system. People know that you're standoffish, that you have a narcissistic attitude. People know this. And you can hide behind the black leadership of Houston who they only want to make the money they're going to make. You may be thinking, oh, they're not going to make no money out of HISD. They're going to make all the money they want to make. Because you know why? And I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Superintendent. They put the right dummy in charge. You're just as dumb as they needed you to be. You're just as lazy as they needed you to be by not running the day-to-day. Remember when we had that virtual and I told you, if you fail, let it be on your own accord. If you fail, let it be for the decisions that you made. But see, you think that you can play this game with a bunch of people that you don't know. That's like you having an 18-wheeler full of dope, Mr. Superintendent, and you from Houston, and you decide to take your 18-wheeler to Atlanta. Unless you know somebody in Atlanta, you're going to get robbed blind. They're going to take everything from you. And that's what they're doing to you here. You didn't come here to educate children. And here's the thing. We lost 2 board members in the last election. You were brought here because their agenda was to close our schools. So black folk, we need to pack the boardroom Thursday night. And you need to show up with it on your mind. If you want to speak, you have until 12 o'clock tomorrow to sign up to speak. This was all a plan. This man came in here to do what the board wanted him to do, which was eventually close schools. That's why when they ask him about school closures, he's quick to say ain't nothing off the table. But see, what you didn't bank on was them 2 board members losing. You didn't bank on that. So honestly, your people are so bold that you've hired, they walk around the building and tell folks they're only going to be here for 2 years anyway. You're trying to decimate our children, decimate our communities, and then pack up, make it look like you did something good so that you can go on to your next 6-figure job. But what you didn't bank on was those 2 board members losing. What you didn't think was that you would run into a fool like me. You see what I'm saying? You didn't know none of that was going to happen. And right now, all you think I'm doing is woofing. Well, tell you what, big homie. How would that have worked if you'd have came off that Diaz to me? Because you were upset about what I was saying. I would have prayed for you when you got down there with me. We'd have had a prayer meeting. I know we would have. And I think God would have been in the building because I just know, I could see it like I had a crystal ball in front of me. I just know that there would have been some furniture moving in that building that night. Because the power of God would have been apparent. You didn't come here to help kids. You came here to destroy our schools. You came here to destroy our communities. So if all of these people, if all of y'all watching have to reapply to come back to the war zone, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at every show. I'm going to see where you made messed up comments. And then when you apply to become a viewer to the war zone, I'm going to tell you your viewership is denied. And that's what he's about to do to these teachers in our schools. Now, I know Some people don't understand it. They don't get it. These schools, in all actuality, we're going to have to close schools because it's just not enough kids. And they're going to keep losing children. Because you know what? It's so corrupt and this district is so damaged. Nobody wants their kids to go to these schools. Nobody wants to teach them anymore. The people that are stuck here in these bad schools. And I don't blame the principals for those schools being bad, especially if you didn't fund them right. I don't blame the principals if you didn't support them right. I don't blame the principals if they don't know how to conduct themselves or know how to manage their staff if you didn't give that training that was to them. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything. So before we start looking at our teachers as to why schools don't perform, let's start at the top. You have a superintendent that doesn't even do his job on a daily. You have a superintendent that don't run the day-to-day of this school district. But you expect the principals under you to do their job. No, a lot of them emulate you. You a sorry sucker, so they sorry too. Now, if the superintendent is trash, the SSO gonna be trash. If the SSO is trash, the principal is trash. So how many high-performing teachers you think you got? Everything rises and falls on leadership. And right now, our leadership is garbage in the Houston Independent School District. It's garbage. So they're hiding money, $300 million? And you got people that can barely pay their mortgage notes and their car notes, and you don't want to give them raises. They got to fight for it. And you've been hiding the money. Explain that to them. And you trustees, you're sitting up there and you hear all of this, and your employee, your superintendent that is your employee, and prior superintendents have done this. And you sit up there holier than thou as a board member, and you ain't got nothing to say. Now I know who getting paid. I had a talk with a superintendent today. Ain't your business who. And I told him if I was a superintendent, these are the things that I would do. A couple things he differed on, but you know what he told me? He said, man, you probably would be a good superintendent with the ideas that you got. I know how to fix it. Let me tell you how we could start. The first thing that I would do is I would wipe out the whole administrative team, and then I would streamline the administration. I'm going to be honest with you. I would wipe out the whole administrative team that was there. I want my own team. I'm going to build my team. Hold on. I'm going to build my team that can help me, push my vision forward. I would get rid of all of them. The next thing I would do is I would call a meeting. It would be at the stadium, at the basketball stadium. I want a building big enough to house every single teacher and administrator in my school district. And in that meeting, I would lay the law down. I would lay the law down. If you ain't came here to do your job, you finna lose it. I'm telling you before we start, because I'm going to walk every school, every classroom as much as I need to. And you're now going to be required to do your job. The schools that would be failing, F-rated, D-rated, they become the highest priority. They would get all of the support that they would need. They would get the financial support, the emotional support. They would get everything. Every school that has a reading problem would get a reading interventionist. Automatic. It's not even an option. Not even an option. So, one, I got to make sure you got everything you need to work with. But now, I'm going to talk about the budget. This is what I would do if I was the superintendent. So we got 300 million. We got ESSA funds. This is what we're going to do. From the lowest paid teacher, I would tell the board, the budget I'm going to put together, they make $54,000. I want the lowest paid teacher to make no less than $62,000. I'm finna give you an $8,000 raise. Now, if that's the lowest paid teacher, first year teacher, now we're going to use step increments according to degrees, according to time and tenure. So if you've been there 5 years, you're going to make more than that. If you've been there more than 10 years, you're going to make more than that. If you've been there 15 years, you're going to make more than that. So now I got you everything you need. I gave you a raise. Where would I start first? Let's go to special ed. Every kid that needs to be tested is going to get tested. Every IEP is going to be honored. Every single one. Every resource that needs to be put into the special education program will be put into it. Okay. You see where we're going with this thing? You see where we're going with this thing? I would actually go in when I streamline the administration, and I would cut my operating budget for my administration no less than 45%. I get rid of millions of dollars of unwanted people. So now I want to talk about corruption. What would I do? First things, we're fighting too many lawsuits. I don't need 45 law firms on retainer fees. I want 5. So I'm gonna get rid of 40 law firms. I don't want them. Let's save some money. And you know why I don't want them? Because we ain't finna be going to court with these lawsuits no more. We're gonna settle this on our campuses, or we're gonna settle it in this administration building. Get rid of all these lawsuits. The SSO position, gone. I don't need a school support officer. I don't need it. Instead of having 40, 50 chiefs, I'm going back to 4 area superintendents. These are your schools. You need to do what you need to do. And I would also tell anybody that has to report to me, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. Now, I'm going to demand that you do the best job that you can do. And I want to put an incentive out there that if you can raise your test scores by a certain amount, we'd have to look at data, and we come up with a realistic goal of raising your test scores, then I need something in my budget. Say that this teacher gets a $10,000 raise. I mean, a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year. If them test scores go up, let's reward them. Let's reward them. Ooh, who wouldn't want to work for me? Now, I want you to understand that if you work for me, I'm going to work harder than you work. So ain't going to be no slacking on the lower levels. You're going to bring it in them classrooms. You would bring it in those classrooms. You never know when I'm coming. So if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I ain't telling nobody when I'm coming to their schools. I'm going to just pop up. And I'm going to just walk to schools. Another thing, if I'm the superintendent, I don't need additional security. So I don't need no fancy vehicle. I don't need you to pay my mortgage note. I don't need a housing stipend. I don't need none of that. So we're going to cut the expenses where they need to be cut. So I didn't cut teachers. I actually gave them more money. I gave them more incentive to do a good job. So now they're going to go and give you the extra effort. Now I want to look at my babies and see what they need. I would ask my district, does my children have everything that other school districts have? Do they have an auditorium? We're about to do water polo next year as a UIL sport. There's nowhere for these kids to practice. Do we have a new football stadium like everybody else? No, we don't. If we're talking about a bond and it's $350 million, and as long as we don't go over $350 million, we don't have to raise taxes, you are going to put me an auditorium and a stadium inside of that bond. Now we got to deal with the real aspects of how this has to happen. You have to know that if we don't come up with a strategic plan, a great marketing plan to get more kids to come back to this school district, that the numbers say we're going to have to close schools. And if I'm your superintendent, I say we need to be equitable if that happens. I'm going to fight for it not to happen. But if it gets down to it and it has to happen, this is the way I would close them. A black one, a white one, a Latino one, and a specialty school. And we'll just keep on rotating. But what you ain't going to do, you ain't going to close 4, then come back and start the process, and then you only get 2 more. No, you closing 4. If we say, well, we need to close some more, you're going to close 4 more. You're going to close a black one, a white one, a Latino, and a specialty. Now, if that is the way to do it equitably so nobody can complain, do we realistically need to build all these schools again? At the moment, no. If we see an influx of children, then we are going to have to come back later, years later, and possibly look at another bond to build additional schools in case we need them. But at the moment, we don't even need all the ones that we have. The numbers say it's not going to work. Now, y'all are watching, and ain't nobody told me I'm wrong yet, because it makes sense. It makes sense. Oh, well, you can't close this school. No. If we're going to close schools, we're going to be equitable about it. And that's what it boils down to. I would ask the board, stay out of my business. Let me run my school district. It is not your responsibility to do the things that you're doing. You don't get into my business, I don't get into yours. But I would fight to keep them all open. Oh, man. I would fight to keep them all open. So there are other things that I would do. One of the main things that I would work on as a superintendent is our busing issue. Why kids staying on buses, school buses, for 3.5 hours? Whether they're going to school or coming home. That makes no sense. So this is what I would do. I would make somebody understand that you cannot move middle school and high school kids on the same buses at the same time. We need to go back to the old bell schedule. We didn't have these issues when we had the old bell schedule. Another thing I would do, I would cap some of these schools as far as enrollment. The reason I say I would cap some of these schools, because some of these schools are nothing more than modern day pirates. They steal kids from other districts, from other schools, and they keep them long enough to get the money. Then at the end of October, once they get the money, they start kicking the kids out, revoking their transfers, sending them back home. This is how I would solve that. One, we're going to cap certain schools. So which schools would you cap? I would have, for schools like Bel Air and Lamar, I'm capping you at 2,500. Well, Lamar, that's 3,500 kids. Well, 1,000 of them, they can go back to their home schools, or if magnet programs are there that have openings and they can get in, then so be it. Let's do school choice. But most likely they would have to go back to their home schools. Now, this is how I've stopped folks from kicking kids out after they get the money. If you got to transfer into your school and you get that money for them, and then after the cutoff date, you kick him out, cool. If he goes to Lamar and he's on the Yates and you kick him out after you get the money, then I'm going to let you make it this year. But what I'm going to do is when that kid hits that Yates campus, your school is going to get dinged. And what I mean by that, in your next budget, you're going to lose that amount of money for that kid, and it will go to the school that he went to. I bet you won't be trying to suck them all up then and kick them out. So here's my thing. These schools need to be kept, especially when you got schools that are suffering because you didn't stretch the district zone lines to purposely steal kids from these schools. In all actuality, I went to a Bel Air City Council meeting, a community meeting the city council member had, and it was like 4 or 5 of us black people in there with all those good white people. You see what I'm saying? And we listened to these people, and they didn't say we don't want the kids here because they're black. They said we don't want these kids here because we're a small community. We didn't ask you to build this big old school. Oh, we want a school for 2,500 kids. That's it. Anything over 2,500, they should go back to their home schools. They wouldn't complain about the kids going back. Okay, so if they said that, then what else did they say? They say, we are so adamant about this, whatever it is you pay per kid for them to be on our campus, we will pay you to send them back to their home schools. So it ain't the communities that want these schools that are ballooned in enrollment sizes. It's HISD. It's HISD. And unless you get somebody in that building that wants to have a real conversation about education, somebody other than Millard House, then you can't fix anything. So let me tell you what our faith is, because good Dr. Muhammad told me. Before the heart attack, there's warning signs. If you go into this new bond and you build all those schools, you're going to have to close a bunch of those new schools. And then what you going to do with them? You're going to turn them into charters, and you're going to deplete our enrollments even more. Do I want to close schools? No. Is it going to happen? Yes. But I'd be damned if you think you're going to come to our side of town and just start closing black schools like it's the thing to do. So with all this going on, Mr. Monroe, who can we trust in this process? Nobody. Not even your mama. You better cut the deck on her. Because everybody got their hand in the money pot. Everybody got their hand in the money pot. I just told you what I would do, and I would save hundreds of millions of dollars. So if Gary Monroe can see this, why can't HISD see it? Why can't Klein see it? Why can't Katie see it? Why can't nobody see this? Because in all actuality, they don't want to see it. Nobody is really in the business of educating poor children. Nobody's really in the business, you feel me, to educate Black or Latino children. Bobby W. Scott, let me put his comment up for you. This is my good friend, Yates alumni. Go after some of these charter schools. They're going after students on the east and the south side. Well, guess what, Bobby? If our state reps wouldn't allow them to come into our communities, there would be none. Before a charter can set up, they have to get the blessings of the state representative from that area. So when we look at, let's stick to Southeast Houston, Sean Theory, Alma Allen. Alma's been there longer than Sean. So all these charter schools in Harlem Clark, Sunnyside, Garnett Coleman, let charter schools come into his area. Who's really at fault for us losing our children? If the state reps say no, the charter cannot be built. But if that charter's built, if they billing them like they billing 7-Elevens in our communities, how much money them state reps getting out the deal? So I'm going to tell you, we voting in these people and continuously voting in these people who all are in the business of raping us. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And contrary to popular opinion, it is what it is. And it's sad because we don't want to accept what's really going on. You feeling what I'm saying? We don't want to accept what's really going on. Hold on. That is the game in a nutshell, and it is what it is. You feel me? So I'm going to share this screen one last time. I'm going to share this screen. And if you don't like my music, I'm cool with that. Okay? If you don't like my music, I'm really cool with that. Why did I go hard on him? Because he threatened me in a board meeting. Was I afraid of the threat? Not at all. I wasn't afraid of the threat at all. But we're going to end the show with this. It is what it is, Mr. Superintendent. You've been exposed.
So this goes out.
Until tomorrow night. I'm going to holler at you. The war zone.
Let's go. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Mr. Superintendent, I got a bone to pick. My mind started clicking. You's a straight up bitch. I stepped back for a second and peeped your game. Oh, smell my cologne, bitch. Remember my name. It's a fire in front of the Sar Monroe. I smell pussy the first day you came through the door. And now you wanna fuck our kids? Fuck yours and your motherfucking wife and your side piece. Oh, you still wanna fight, nigga? Bring it. Cause I'm gonna hum with the Glock and have them hollow points saying, you wanna play tough, nigga, keep on flexing. See, I'll slap your ass, bitch, straight out of Texas. Take your schemes, your team, and get the fuck on now. If you stay your little bitch, you better watch your mouth. You think I'm all talk, but you ain't getting no pass. Let's have a conversation, oh, with my foot in your ass. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Let's slide to the trustees. For a second, every board meeting, you suckers you say living up with nothing but some yes girls and one yes boy. You're tougher than a bitch, surrounded by laws. Miss Board President, I'll get you at the polls, and you ain't getting no votes from none of my Negroes. Take your side piece, she going with you. I wipe out the whole cabinet when I get through. I still can't believe that you hide this bum. Let's send this bitch back. Where the fuck it come from? You can't do a budget, you can't educate, and your words ain't lining up because they carry no weight. Matter of fact, You want a guinea pig mission, and I'm gonna line it up just because this nigga tripping. You came to get the bag, then you raise it on up. You didn't know that you the pussy that we bout to fuck, nigga. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, you think a nigga don't know? Oh no. Your house, found one. Sit your monkey ass down. Just having the best you can, though. Like the pimp would say, I bet your big ass smell like cologne now. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, say you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you a hoe. Mr. Superintendent, you gotta go. Mr. Superintendent, say you a hoe. Until tomorrow night, I'll holler at y'all, man.